Yo guys, what is up? Battlecrypter117 here, and today we are going to be reviewing some more information that has been come out for Disney Infinity 3.0. So, most of this information has come from the Game Informer review of the game, which is, you see the cover right here, as well as a couple of other sources for Disney Infinity. So, one of the major things that has been covered this week on Disney Infinity 3.0 is space battles. So space battles will be included in Disney Infinity 3.0. You'll be able to take off from a planet, fly around up in space, and take on Star Destroyers and TIE Fighters in X-Wings, Millennium Falcon, and Jedi Starfighters. So here we see the Millennium Falcon taking on some TIE Fighters over some planet, but with a Star Destroyer in the background, which I think is super cool, and I'm excited to participate in this and really get into space and take on some TIE Fighters. But also, there's not just normal TIE Fighters. You can see here we've got a TIE Interceptor, as well as some normal TIE Fighters, and maybe a couple of TIE Advanced. Not sure, those may still be TIE Interceptors. But moving on to the next picture, here's another picture of what space battles can look like. So here we are over the planet Tatooine. We got a Star Destroyer off in the distance, and the player is flying as a X-Wing, and they're trying to take down an Imperial shuttle that is flying away from them. So that confirms that Imperial shuttles will be making a presence in this game, which I think is cool because that design of a ship is one of my favorites, and I really enjoy the look of it. So here we see another picture. We've already confirmed that the trench run of the Death Star will be in the game, but here's another little view of what it's going to look like. You've got little targeting sequences around these turbo laser cannons, and you're flying down through the trench. So next we see one of the screenshots from the Twilight of the Republic playsets for the space battles that are in that playset. So here we're over the planet Coruscant with, you can see a little bit of a Republic cruiser down here. I think this is supposed to be a Vulture droid, and then we're flying as a Republic Jedi Starfighter. And off to the side here, this is a little space station type thing, and this little blue wavelength thing coming down towards it is actually a landing beacon, and players will be able to land on little planetoids and space debris and mini space stations like this and actually hop out of their starfighter and explore it. So in this next picture we see Anakin Skywalker after he's landed, and he's running around and exploring what there is on this little space station thing. And sometimes droids will come up on, like, out of little maintenance hatches and take you on. There will be capsules that will contain stuff for within the playsets, as well as stuff inside the toy box that you can unlock on these little planetoids and space stations. So it's really important, if you want to get everything you can possibly have in a playset or the toy box, that you go and explore these areas. So here we see the Millennium Falcon taking off from a landing bay on Tatooine. So I think this is what it will look like. There may be a little bit of a transition scene. I don't know if they have flowing, like you can just fly from ground to space. I think there may be a little bit of a transition sequence, but you will be able to hop into a Millennium Falcon or a X-Wing starfighter on the surface of Tatooine and take off into space, which I think is absolutely incredible and expands the open world idea concept for Disney Infinity 3.0 a lot more than the previous games, having both a open world land area and a space area above. So that is really awesome. So now moving on to each of the planets in Disney Infinity 3.0 with the Star Wars, we're going to look at some more of the screenshots that have been revealed about each of the planets and what's going to be in them, and a general idea of what we will be able to do. So In this screenshot, we are seeing Luke Skywalker walking through one of the villages. I think this is probably the more major of all the villages on Tatooine, because this is the village I keep seeing over and over, unless this is the only village that they've really shown so far. But, so, we see Jabba's palace up on the horizon here. We've seen that probably in one of our previous screenshots. I think the one with Darth Maul fighting the bounty hunters in the last episode. But we got some sort of satellite dish and a building here. And I know you will be able to get on top of some of these buildings and like run along these awning type things. Because in one of the Game Informer gameplay videos, we see Luke Skywalker jump off the rooftops and then onto a bantha to ride around, which we saw in the last episode. Actually, I think I might have that one in this episode. So, onto the left here, we have some sort of possibly an interactable object. It's got little beacons on it. Not exactly sure what it is. This kind of looks like a little bit of a hangar bay or a speeder bay where we can maybe pick up speeders. We got a tauntaun, strangely enough, on Tatooine, which is kind of odd. Moisture evaporators. Just really cool overall look to it, and I'm really excited to play in this playset on Tatooine. So our next screenshot for Tatooine is riding around in Luke's land speeder. So this is a confirmed vehicle for this playset. We could, in the Game Informer video, which I will have linked in the description below, we see gameplay of a player riding around in this land speeder just around on Tatooine, and just seeing that this is an actual vehicle in the game and that we will be able to traverse the landscape in it. Now we see Leia riding a speeder bike down through a canyon next to a sandcrawler that is actually moving. It is not just a stationary object in the playset. It actually moves across the landscape. So I hope there'll be a way to like interact with the sandcrawler. That'd be really cool if you could do something with the Jawas. And I think it's really cool that we can ride around on speeder bikes, and the landscape looks really awesome. So this is the picture I mentioned a little bit earlier about Luke and the bantha. So you'll be able to jump along these, probably ride these like the rails, these like banners and wires that are hanging above the city. But we know that banthas are now confirmed rideable. You will be able to hop on them and walk around, and in the Game Informer review, they talked about being able to go into the cantina and knock over tables and cause chaos, even while riding a bantha. But aside from that, in this picture, we get to see a little bit of what the sand troopers on Tatooine are going to look like. So we get to see their design, and I think it looks really awesome. And they look pretty menacing with their blasters just marching through the village. And up ahead, we see the Millennium Falcon parked in its docking bay. So in that previous screenshot where we saw it taking off, I believe this is where it was taking off from, which is really awesome that you can just walk up to the docking bay, hop in the Millennium Falcon, and then head off into space. We also get a little glimpse of what I think is one of the mini-game type challenge aspects of each of the playsets. So those will probably be continuing as they did in the previous games, but this time Star Wars themed, or whatever the other playsets you're playing themed to that playset. So now we're moving on to the Endor planet in the Rise Against the Empire playset. So here we see Han Solo running through a little bit of a mountainous area with some rocks on either side of him. And in the actual gameplay, we see him slide down this log, and in the distance we can see a beacon, which may be either an objective marker or someone trying to give him a mission. And we get to see a little bit of the trees in an Ewok village, which in this picture, he comes around the corner and we get to see a lot more of this Ewok village. So we can see a little bit more of these mission giver beacons, which I hope are the little Ewok townspeople, which would be really awesome and add that like environmental aspect and make it really feel like Endor. But the look of these trees, they're just so massive compared to the player, and you can actually go up into the treetops and walk around on their little platforms and talk to the Ewoks, which is really cool. And so in this next image, we get to see a nighttime Endor, which really makes me think that there may be a day-night cycle on these planets, which would be absolutely awesome, because seeing a double sunset on Tatooine would it be incredible to see in this game, as well as what everything looks like at nighttime. And maybe there'll be some like special nighttime missions where you have to sneak around and perform stealth missions for a certain mission giver. So this one we see nighttime Endor, some more of the Ewok village, a Ewok mission giver over here, possibly. But the main thing that this is showing is that we are playing as Darth Vader. So the player is playing as Darth Vader, one of the confirmed characters. But before this, we hadn't really seen anything about what Darth Vader will look like. But in the video, we see him hop onto this rope and slide across and continue his journey through the Ewok village. So that about wraps it up for Endor, but we move on to the Hoth planet in the Rise Against the Empire playset. We don't have very many pictures for this. This was just a picture that I found to expand upon what we know already of Hoth. And so we see AT-AT walkers in the background, as well as snow speeders swooping in, and there's really cinematic looking pictures. But we also get to see what the snow troopers will look like in this playset. They look really awesome. They look pretty menacing with only being able to see their goggles, and it's really looking pretty good for this playset. I'm really excited to take on some AT-AT walkers in this playset. So now we move on to the Twilight of the Republic playset and Geonosis. So this is, of course, Geonosis, and we get to see Ahsoka. We get to see a little bit of gameplay of Ahsoka fighting some commando droids as well as normal battle droids. We see gunships flying in the background, the overall landscape of Geonosis. And what I thought was really cool was Ahsoka's fighting style, first of all. The ability of force powers and using them, because she blasts the droids back and is pretty awesome. But the mission giver, we get to see Plo Koon here as the mission giver, and he's talking and telling Ahsoka that she has to find a way to the factory complex and aid our clone troopers fighting in the arena. So after she takes out all these droids, she heads into the arena, and she has to help out these clone troopers. And that's the main thing that I wanted to show in this screenshot. We get to see the not stormtroopers, but clone troopers in this playset. So before we've seen the stormtroopers, but this is our first little glimpse at what the clone troopers are going to look like. And again, we have Plo Koon giving Ahsoka the mission, and then Ahsoka goes and takes out all the droids. But that's it for all of our Star Wars news. But now we're going to head into the toy box stuff. So Disney Infinity 3.0 Toy Box Hub is one of the new features that they've added into this game. So the players will be able to head into this hub. It will be kind of like a separate world, I believe, and each section will be a different type of learning experience. This is almost kind of like the tutorial area that you learn how to use different aspects of the toy box. So here we get this, the player can activate this and learn how to make platforming games and see what different items are available in their toy box for platforming, and learn that they can put down beacons and like objective markers, which is really cool. So that kind of teaches the player what they can do with platforming and then give them, maybe the player some ideas so that they can go into a blank toy box of their own and start creating a platforming game themselves. So this one is the main street of Disneyland, I think, and we get to see, so this right here I think is the theater that they have been talking about, that players will be able to go in there and watch episodes of Toy Box TV, which is really cool. You can actually watch their show from within the game and not even have to leave it. So this is some of the interactable areas in the Main Street area. I'm not exactly sure what all of the buildings are. I just know that there's the theater for watching Toy Box TV. Down here, I think maybe combat. I'm not exactly sure. I'm not exactly sure about the rest of these. Although I do know this area right here is the farming area, where the player will learn about the new area of farming, an aspect that has been added to this game, which I will talk about in a little bit in one of our upcoming screenshots. So, you may have already heard this, but Disney Infinity 3.0 will get rid of the blind packs for power discs, which I think is really awesome, because finding the power disc that you want in a blind pack can take forever, and you may not end up getting it at all, and you may have to spend a bunch of money just to get the ones that you want. So this introduces a new way of selling them. They're sold in clearly, you can clearly see what is each of the power discs are. It's labeled on the back. And so here's one of the examples. The Tomorrowland Power Disc Pack comes with 4 power discs, and you get to see what they all are, what they all do, and you know exactly what is in the box. So when you buy it, you know exactly what you are purchasing. So the Tomorrowland Power Disc Pack comes with a ability for your character, which allows them to throw time bombs and freeze their enemies in middle of time. Comes with a toy, which is a being able to, it's a new gun, and you're able to, it's just a laser blaster, golden laser blaster, kind of futuristic look, based on the Tomorrowland area and Disneyland and Disney World. And we get to have the theme, texture, power discs. So you have the Tomorrowland Sky Dome and the Tomorrowland texture for your world. And so now we move on to the farming aspect of the game that I mentioned earlier. So one of the new aspects in Disney Infinity 3.0 is they're going to add a farming section to the game. So to our right, you see the corn stalks. You'll be able, in the beginning, you'll get a seed. Your seed, you'll plant it, and it'll either give you one of many things. You could get a seed, it could not grow it. You could get corn, you could get the other different kinds of crops, you could get a weed, or it could just not give you anything, and then you'd have to go out and find a new seed. But the main purpose of this farming is the ability to have sidekicks. So you'll be able to get a sidekick to follow you around in your toy box, and I'm not sure about the playsets, but I have seen that you'll be able to recruit them to help you in like Toy Box Takeover, which is one of the new Toy Box games. But the growing of crops, certain crops will boost your sidekicks' stats in certain areas. So you want to grow a variety of crops and grow your little village so that you can help out your sidekicks, and it's kind of just a fun little aspect to the game, which to me sounds like a lot of fun. I'm excited to make my own little farm and a little village and wander around and tend to my crops. But some of the crops that have been hinted at are your normal crops like corn and probably like beans, but like also pizza plants and cotton candy plants. So they kind of add that fun kid aspect to the game by adding in some of the ridiculously crazy and fun crops, which I think is really cool. Now in this next picture, we get a little bit of a glimpse at Toy Box Takeover, which is one of the Toy Box games along with Toy Box Speedway. Those are the two that have been announced so far. And so this is kind of like a battle type gameplay that you're going through a world and you are taking out as many bad guys as you can in waves on waves on waves and exploring an area. So this is probably one of the Wild West maps that you'll be able to do the Toy Box Takeover in. But there's also a randomly generated one that just randomly generates each time, as well as a Pirates of the Caribbean one, and probably several others that I haven't heard about. But so this one, we see Baymax taking out some of the gangsters from the Lone Ranger pack, Butch Cavendish's sidekick people, and a bank-looking item in the background. So this one looks pretty awesome. But in our next image, we get to see that Pirates of the Caribbean one that I was talking about. We see Aladdin, Wreck-It Ralph, and Maleficent taking on some of the bad guys from Davy Jones's people from Pirates of the Caribbean. So we see the ship in the background and just the dock type look, and this looks pretty awesome. So that is going to end this episode. That is all the news that I have for you guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode and learned something new about Disney Infinity 3.0, which I'm super excited about, and I hope you are too. But that's it for today, and I will see you all next time.